This is talking about cybersecurity, and it's very important that we be briefed on our cybersecurity. We've had a number of issues come up recently, in addition to some other ones, so we need to be briefed on what's happening here. So, Ms. Giambattista, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Councilmember Lambert, members of the committee, Jenny Giambattista, council staff. Today we will have a presentation from Mr. Kehoe on cybersecurity in King County.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Bill Kehoe, the King County Chief Information Officer, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about a very important topic, which is cybersecurity, something that is very near and dear to my heart as the King County CIO and protecting our residents' data through our technology controls, and that KCIT, our IT department, is very focused on a daily basis. So what is cybersecurity? And it can be rather mystifying. So today what I hope is to draw some parallels with some other security controls that we're more familiar with so we can paint a different picture. But it's really the body of technologies such as the computer, the antivirus on your computer, processes like our onboarding new employees is a security process, and practices like good password practices are part of cybersecurity. So it's not just technology, although it's a very technology term, cybersecurity, but it's really the responsibility of all of us to practice good security practices. And that's a message that I hope to convey to all of the King County employees. It's really up to us. And there's not one technology that can really prevent all the threats that are out there. So ultimately, though, the controls that we have in place around cybersecurity, we have that in place to protect the data that our residents entrust with us from unauthorized disclosure, modification, or destruction. So breaches of data, you may have read in other governments how damaging that is, not only to the government entity, but to the public that have their data compromised. There's breach notifications, but it really erodes the public trust of that government institution, and that's what we really desperately want to prevent in King County. Given the reliance on technology, all of our services to our residents rely on technology. There's very few that don't. You only have to look at the devices that you probably brought into the dais today to understand that there's more than just mainframe computers now and a terminal. We now have a lot of mobile devices that are accessing our networks and our internet and our applications. And so that's a challenge. Unauthorized or unwanted attacks to our infrastructure, such as our network, can cause critical county services to be compromised or worse, unavailable, preventing our residents from receiving the services they need. An example would be if we have a network issue, or even if our email is unavailable. We rely on that so much in our daily work, and our residents rely on our information, our services, so much that if they're unavailable, it's a big deal. It's a problem. So we want to keep those services up and available. So sometimes we don't think about availability as a cybersecurity issue, but it very much is, because some of the cyber attacks that others have had relate to destroying or compromising critical network infrastructure or technology infrastructure. So in King County and KCIT, we have our information assurance team that is charged with making sure we have the right controls and policies in place, and that we are constantly assessing and monitoring our security controls, and where we see vulnerabilities, that we do something about them. However, security is something that's in all of our services in KCIT, not just in our information assurance program. So our network service has a large security component. Our workstation services that we deliver devices has a large security component. Our applications have a large security component, accessing the information and the data. So security is really throughout our IT organization, but our information assurance department really guides the policies and programs and controls. So the parallel that I would like to draw today to help paint a different picture is about physical security. So coming into the courthouse today, we all had to empty our pockets and go through the scanner. And we accept that. That's visible. We think it's vital to protect those that are in the courthouse from unwanted harm. And we go to the airport, we go through TSA, we see these physical security controls. Security controls are based on, in King County, where people can go in the facilities and based on their access privileges. So depending on the role and the duties you have, you are allowed in different buildings on different floors, and you have access controls. There's various levels of security in King County in our facilities. For instance, in our detention facilities, not anybody can just walk into our jail, and nor should they. So there's higher level security access controls there versus the Chinook building, for example. So there's different levels of security in our facilities. The same is true for our network and our software applications. We may have public applications like our kingcounty.gov website that are open to the public, that are open to all. One Bus Away is an example of a software application that's open to the public. There's no private data there. It's information that we want to have accessible by all. But there are other services and applications that are restricted, that may require a user ID and a password, that are only open to those that have the right access, similar to our physical security. And access to our criminal justice applications, like our jail management systems, require two-factor authentication. So that's even a higher level of security, just like going into a detention facility. So there's a lot of similarities between what we're trying to do with cybersecurity controls and role-based access that are very similar to what we're doing in our facilities and our buildings. So I hope that helps clarify that a little bit.
Thank you. I have 3 questions for you. Is
Yeah.
ourbuildingpermit.com finally on board?
Our what?
Ourbuildingpermit.com. Do you know if we finally got that program launched through deeper?
The online? Mm-hmm. Yes, that did get
Excellent.
launched.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Then there's a change in how business is done in this county where we are relying more and more on your services. And, when we get the budget every year, there's a big number there and people kind of freak out. So, but that number is going to have to grow as we become more and more efficient using computers. So I'm wondering if there is a model that we can be looking at to say that, and maybe we already do this, but that there's a certain amount that we will expect the use of computers to go up over time. And because of that, it should be in each unit expecting that growth. I know we do an overhead cost per computer, but are we doing the very best way of calculating those costs right now?
So that's a great question. With our service model in KCIT, each of our services we're in a chargeback model. So for instance, applications or our devices that we issue, they all have a cost per device, cost per application. And embedded in those costs is a security component. And the more standard we are, we don't necessarily have to always increase the price. If we can standardize, and which is also helping us with our security risk, and we don't have a lot of different standards throughout the county, then we should be able to control the price even with adding security controls. But like I said in my introduction, it's money isn't the problem, doesn't always solve the problem here. One of the things that we're doing that's very low cost is putting in a security awareness program that's online that we want to roll out eventually to the entire county. And just to increase the awareness of good security practices internally, because that can be the cause of many security breaches. The email phishing attack that you open up and it says, hey, enter your King County password and user ID. And the sophistication of those is getting greater. So increasing the awareness there. But all of our security models and cost models have a security component.
Great. And my last question is, we did have some issues this year with during flood time that some of our computers or phone systems got overloaded. And then, of course, we had some issues during the election time, and we've had some other issues in different departments. Do you have a master panel of when is each department in our county most vulnerable to overloads, so that you can look and say, okay, let's just take November, for instance. We have elections, we have flooding, we have, emergency people out. So in my mind, for instance, November could be the month from disaster zones. So do you have a panel that you can look at so your staff knows these are the heavy uses, so you know that this month over this month is different in what I need to do to be prepared for an overload on our circuits?
So we need to do a better job on that. I think thanks to your prompting, Councilmember Lambert, we're looking at different ways to get better at that. We do have a very mature change management process within KCIT that involves all of the separately elected and executive branch agencies. So we have moratoriums on changes to our infrastructure and our applications during those change moratoriums, like an election coming up. However, if we can get more information and get that on a calendar or some kind of enterprise-wide awareness and increase that awareness, then that's only going to help us. Make sure we have staff that are available to respond, that we have the right staff available, and that we're not making any changes during those critical times. So we definitely can do better in that area.
So will you work with us on getting an ordinance to do that?
Absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you so much for being with us today. I appreciate it.